Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. Today we are taking a look at another 2020 Mojo Fun figure, and this time it is their brand new Tyrannosaurus Rex. It definitely looks to be a very cool, much more updated version of the Tyrannosaurus Rex in comparison to their previous attempts, but I think that the one that they had, I think it was like 2-3 years ago, was actually really nice. I was actually quite the big fan of it. Maybe not the most scientifically accurate T-Rex, but I really did quite like it. However, they now have this newer version with an articulated jaw, and actually a very similar paint scheme to the one from a few years ago, as one of the two that they had released had a very reddish-brown type of a coloration, like you are seeing here on this version. They also had a green version, but with this particular release, we only get this reddish-brown version, and I really do think that the coloration looks really good, very natural. Again, the type of coloration that you could potentially see on a real living T-Rex. I would imagine that it would probably have to be sort of darker colors to maybe ambush prey and things like that. But, you know, I could be wrong, who knows. But I really do feel like the coloration on this is definitely really well done. I really quite like the sculpt and detail as well from this vantage point, but the only way to truly tell is to get an up-close and personal look, so let's do that right now. So looking up here at the head sculpt, you can see that the head sculpt looks to be done really well. Very nice scaling all over the head. Beautiful detailing, very nice, cool type of a scoot-like appearance as we run up along the palate and then up onto the eyebrow, the ridge there of the eyebrow up above it. And the detailing all around the eye looks to be done really well. Very nice green eye with a black pupil there. It's perfectly placed from what I can tell, so there's no real sloppiness with the eye or anything like that. And in fact, I think the paint job overall looks to be really well done. There's no real sloppiness anywhere that I can see on the figure. I really do quite like the browns, that like reddish brown they've chosen here, and I love the darker brown as we get closer to the mouth. I really think that that looks so cool. And also up here along the upper part of the palate, I think that the coloration of this definitely looks really nice, very natural looking. It's all applied beautifully as well. You can see that that darker like black that you have down here transitions up here onto the edge of the snout as well. And I think that looks really cool. Beautifully sculpted nostrils there as well. Really nice skin tone all over the face area of the Rex and on the lower jaw. And again, you can see it start out with like this blackish coloration up here by the mouth, and then it transitions to this nice lighter brown, and then transitions to a white type coloration on the underside. And look how smooth that transition is. That's so nice. I really love when figures end up having such a realistic looking paint job, and that's definitely what I see here. This black coloration is kind of like a black mixed with like a burnt umber brown, and then it transitions to that very nice lighter brownish, like reddish brown type color here in the lower jaw. And then again, that transition from that color down to this light coloration on the underside is really, really smooth. And you can also see that there is like a dark wash that's been applied all over the figure just to really bring out some of the very nice detailing, or at least on the underside anyway. The jaw, like I said, is articulated, so it can open, and that's about the width that you get right there. You can see the tongue inside is painted really quite nicely and looks to be sculpted pretty nicely, but shockingly, there's not really any texture to the tongue. You can see there is some there to the skin flap inside the mouth, but as far as the actual tongue goes, you don't really see too much going on as far as detailing or anything. It's really quite smooth. It is glossed really nicely, does shine quite nicely, very realistically. And you can also see the inside of the mouth on the upper side looks to be sculpted and painted nicely. I wish I could just get a little bit of light in there to show you guys. There we go, we can see it there. Definitely some really nice sculpt work in there. On the upper side of the jaw, on the inside, really beautifully done, and again, nicely painted. The teeth are also really quite nicely painted, all sculpted individually, and they're painted with a nice whitish coloration. They don't look sloppy really anywhere, so definitely a good job on the teeth. As we lead down the neck, you can see some nice skin creasing going on here in the neck, and it also has almost like a Carnotaurus, like osteoderm type of a trail that runs down the body here, and then also up on the upper side of the animal that runs along the spinal column, which is really quite different than most Rex figures that I see. So I actually quite like that, just because it's so different than the usual Rex figure. It gives it its very own unique feeling. You can also see kind of some skin folding and skin wrinkling here in the neck, and a little bit of hanging skin in the throat. You can also get a sense of the shoulder blade there as we get down into the body. You can again see some pretty nice skin texture down here Here are the arms, and the arms look to be done really well, and the hands transition to a nice blackish coloration there for the actual hands. And you can see that it does look pretty cool. It almost kind of makes it look like he's wearing gloves in a way, but it's definitely a nice transition between the two. You can see it looks to be a pretty smooth transition and helps to give it some color variation. You can see on this side as well the shoulder blade right there. You can get a sense of the rib cage there in the stomach region. And for some reason, I don't know how it has happened, but mine has picked up some glitter from somewhere. You'll see it sparkling every so often, and I can't get it off. I've been trying to get it off. I don't know why it won't go off. But yeah, there's some glitter here and there on my Rex for some silly reason. It didn't come this way, it just for some reason has acquired glitter since I got it out. I guess my daughter must have had glitter somewhere. But again, you can see the very cool kind of bumps and osteoderms, like those scoots that run along the body there. And they are painted with a nice blackish color to help them stand out, give it a little bit of a striking look, but with some nice dull colors that you would expect to find on a Rex. You can kind of see the skin bunching up there a little bit in the stomach as this leg is forward pretty far and it's squishing up the skin there. Really nice muscle tone here in the thigh. You would expect it to be extremely muscular as it would be running a lot to catch prey, and that's definitely what I see here. And it's been painted really nicely, kind of given some beautiful tones of black within the muscle tone, the musculature, to help that jump out at you. Some really nice shading done, and that same type of shading runs down here onto the calf area, and you can see the calf is very large, very bulging, definitely really well done. And then you get down into the foot sculpt. The foot sculpt looks really nice as well. Beautiful transition again to like a blackish color. It's more like a burnt umber and has a really nice scoot-like appearance along the feet there. Definitely really well done. There's the dew claw back there, but the dew claw doesn't really, I guess it kind of has paint right here. It's just kind of all the same type of a darker coloration that kind of covers the entire foot along with the nails. You can see though that the nails are painted a little bit darker there on the actual nails in comparison to the foot. As we come back here into the tail, you can see the skin stretching and stuff off of the tail really quite nicely. Here are some more of those scoots that run out onto the tail, but they stop right about here. They don't run out any further than that. But the scoots up here on the top, those osteoderms run out till about here, so a little further than the ones here on the side. You can also see some very nice skin texture down here on the underside of the tail as well. And then we run out the length of the tail. It has a very nice curve here at the end. Really beautiful skin texture, and again the paint application looks great. You kind of see variations of like lighter and darker versions of that reddish brown throughout. The opposing side here, we did start to look at it a little bit. You can again see the rib cage here in the stomach region, and you can see the skin stretching off of the body a little bit here as this leg is back pretty far. There's the nicely sculpted hip bone, and the musculature here of the thigh looks similar to what we saw on the opposing side, where they kind of have it given like a shading done to really make the muscle tone jump out at you. And again, it runs down here into the calf. You can see the calf muscle is very large, very bulging right here. A really nice foot sculpt over here once again. You can see just how beautiful that looks. I love the foot sculpt of this Rex. And then we come back up here into the tail, and once again, the scoots that run down from the body do end right here. And again, the upper side here in the spinal column stops right about there, and then we run out the length of the tail. Again to that very nice curve there at the end, and then the underside also sports some really beautiful sculpt and detail throughout, so really nice looking Rex from Mojo Fun, definitely a beautiful Tyrannosaurus Rex. So as far as the size goes, from the tail to the head, you're going to see it at about 11 3/4 inches or about 30 centimeters. As far as the length, it's really quite nicely sized, definitely has some good size to it. For a height, on the head, you're going to see it at about 4 1/4 inches or around 10, or actually more like 11 centimeters. And for the tail's up a little higher. You're going to see it at about 5 1/4 inches or about 13 centimeters, almost 13 and a half. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex and Robert Muldoon from the Jurassic World line, hopefully giving you an idea of the size of this Rex if you happen to have either of these two figures. I'm trying to incorporate Robert Muldoon more often to try to give you a little bit of difference when it comes to the figures we compare other figures to, just to maybe help give you an idea of the size if you happen to not have the Papo Rex. But you can definitely see that it's really well sized, quite the beautifully sized T-Rex. And now I have to kind of bring up the elephant in the room, as the saying goes, because a lot of people have been stating that they think that this was copied from the Papo running T-Rex. And me personally, I don't really think so. I think maybe they had some inspiration sort of from the pose, but that's pretty much the extent of it, because the figures are actually really quite different when it comes straight down to it and you actually look at them. As far as the detailing, the positioning of the body, and the proportions go, the only real similarity, and I'll bring in the Papo Rex, is the fact that if we look at it from above, they both kind of have their heads turned to the right, they're both walking with their legs stretched further apart, and they have their tails kind of curling in opposite directions, actually. So that's about where the likeness of the figures end, really. I think the reason that a lot of people think that the figures are so similar is basically just due to the head being turned to the right and the positioning of the legs. I think that is the majority of the reason. They have a similar sort of body appearance, I will say. They are very muscular looking Rex figures, but at the same time, if we get close and we look at the head sculpt is actually incredibly different, very, very different in comparison to each other. The overall detailing as well is very different. If we look at the arms are definitely quite different as well. You can see that the arms are in different positions. The Papo Rex has its arms a little bit wider and further apart, whereas the Mojo Fun's arms are much closer together. You can also see even the undersides of the feet are different as far as the way that they've been sculpted. The legs are in opposite positions, so if we see the Papo Rex there has its left leg forward, but the Mojo Fun has its right leg forward. The stance is actually also different, so if we have them both facing forward, you'll see that they are pretty similar. Again, you can see back there that the tails do face opposite directions, and again, they are both kind of crouched, but the Mojo Fun Rex is crouched a lot more so than the Papo Rex. The Papo Rex is kind of more upright. You can see his head's crouched a little bit there, but not too much. But the Mojo Fun is actually crouched quite a bit. You can see it's coming in at much more of a different angle, a much lower angle. And of course, we also have to take into consideration the fact that there is just difference in the sculpt overall, the detailing overall. This has a scoot-like appearance on it. The Papo Rex does not have anything like that. The Papo Rex is a bit taller than the Mojo Fun Rex as well, along with actually the foot sculpt. Even the foot sculpt itself, as far as the leg that is back, is sculpted differently. This one, the Mojo Fun Rex, has its foot at more of an angle. The Papo Rex has its foot kind of coming down straight forward and is much further up on its toes than the Mojo Fun Rex. So I will say for sure that the poses definitely, and I just dropped my Mojo Rex, the poses are similar, but I think it's more of just a coincidence, and even Mojo Fun themselves have actually commented on it on their Facebook page, stating that any similarities between this figure and the Papo Rex is purely just a coincidence. So I really do believe them. I don't think that it was meant to be so similar to the Papo Rex, but I mean, it's a Tyrannosaurus Rex, it's a dinosaur on 2 feet, and every pose has been done by every company at this point already, so I think it was kind of only a matter of time before someone ended up sculpting a dinosaur that looks very similar to another company's figure, because honestly, it's all been done before at this point as far as the poses of dinosaurs, so it's kind of an inevitability that it was going to happen at some point, and I think unfortunately, now that Papo Rex fell in his face, unfortunately it just took the Mojo Fun Rex to end up looking fairly similar to the Papo Rex before it finally did in fact happen. Again, looking at the two together, you should be able to pick up on some significant difference between each figure, but I really do like the Mojo Fun figure a lot. I definitely think they did a great job on it. So this Mojo Fun 2020 Tyrannosaurus Rex is really well done. I think the sculpt is definitely a very nice sculpt. It's in a very kind of a dynamic pose. I almost feel like maybe it should be positioned with its mouth open, and it's in sort of a crouched position, like it's coming from the underneath, like it's maybe going in to take down a dinosaur. It's about to come in at maybe the legs or something and take the legs out of the dinosaur to try to lay it out and get a nice bite in on the neck afterwards or something like that. It really has that sort of appearance to it, especially with the curvature of the head kind of coming in at an angle. And I really do think that the pose is really nicely done. The very fine detailing of the Rex is also beautifully done. Definitely a very nicely sculpted Rex as far as the skin texture, the musculature, and even the skin stretching and folding in certain areas. It's really beautifully portrayed all throughout the sculpt. The paint job on the figure is really well done as well. I think that the colors that they chose are all really beautiful tones as far as a Tyrannosaurus Rex, as far as a very large theropod would go. I think it looks a bit flashy. It definitely gives it some flashiness with that reddish brown, but at the same time the tones are kind of darker tones and really look very natural on the figure. Definitely a very good choice as far as the paint scheme goes. And I also do like the inclusion of that kind of osteoderm scoot-like appearance that runs down the dinosaur, because it's something that's kind of different than most Rex figures that you see, so I can always appreciate a little artistic creativity when it comes to someone sculpting a figure in their own way. It's definitely really nicely done here on this Mojo Rex. I think all the paint application is applied really well also, and it's cool to have an articulated jaw on a Mojo Rex, because previously the only one I think we had that had an articulated jaw was that very small one, and that wasn't the best figure. It wasn't bad, but this one is definitely much better, and it's really nice to see the articulated jaw on it as well. So really cool Tyrannosaurus Rex from Mojo Fun for their 2020 line. Make sure you keep checking out DeJenkins and EverythingDinosaur.com for when they officially do start to stock the figure, because it should be sometime in the very near future, I would imagine. So again, check those websites, but before you do that, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.